Welcome back. It's exactly 11 a.m. and we are going to the next one, which is knowledge in action. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. Now, you have on the slide here, we're going to talk about knowledge in action. So, what is knowledge in action? What is knowledge in action? Knowledge in action, and I'm going to share with you why this is relevant, right? So, this is all about tacit, intuitive knowledge that guides a person's behavior, right? And also, knowledge in action guides that person's decision making, why they are doing certain things. So, you're thinking about how somebody do what they do. You're looking at someone that is skilled in what they do. And how do you get this type of thing? You get it through experience, through doing your work for a long period of time, hands-on experience. And after a while, it becomes part of you. For instance, when you everyone that drives, look at the first time you started driving, right? The very first time you started driving, number one, let me use myself as an example. When I used to live in Woodbridge, right? When I first came, to Woodbridge, no, I used to live in Dumfries. I used to live in Dumfries before I moved to Woodbridge. But I realized when I moved to that area, I realized that the road was a bit confusing because I used to go to my church was somewhere in Smoketown Road. So, and I just learned how to drive. Now, I'm about to go to church. I'm like, I've been to this road several times while someone was carrying me. But that day I got on 95 and I was turning round and round and round and round. But I remember that there was a day, the person that was driving me, there was a day we missed our road. And the person said, oh, all I need to do is to go. So we were going north, right? We're going north. And the person said, oh, all we need to do is to go south in order to now recover and get back to the right track. So I now put that in my mind. I said, okay, so if I'm going south, for instance, and I miss my way, so all I need to do is to go north. So 95 north. So that was how, but before I got back to the church that day, the church was over. But I was turning round and round on 95, trying to get it because I just moved to the area and I didn't know the place. And there were other roads that I could have used. Someone who has a tacit knowledge, who is experienced, who already know how it works, they will definitely say, you know what, instead of me, going through 95, maybe I can just go through there's a road they call waterways, on 234, you can cut, into waterways. And from there, you can, hit Dale City Road, or Dale, I've forgotten what they call that, road. And then from there, you can come out to Smoketown Road. But that day I decided to go on 95 and I was done just because I didn't have the experience. And I was just, new to the area. Everything was confusing to me. So knowledge in action is about experience. It's about evolving. It's about being adaptive. All right. It's about what really works. Okay. So it's about that knowledge asset, that company asset that we talked about, that is in people's mind, that is in people's brain, that is part of them. For instance, someone that is a surgeon, like a skilled surgeon. I remember when I had an appendix removed, you know, this guy, first of all, by the time they put me to sleep, and by the time I woke up, they were already done. And I look at myself, all they did was a little incision. And when they showed me the picture of what came out of me, I'm like, oh my God. But this guy is a skilled surgeon. And he was just talking about casually. He was just, the way he dressed, I'm like, can this guy actually do this surgery? But the way he did it, there was no long cut to my lower abdomen. It was just a little incision. He made an incision on the right side and made an incision on the left side. And how he did it, maybe he put camera on one and then he put the thing on one and brought it out. So that guy knows his job. And he has, a sustainable competitive advantage. The reason is because I can give him a good review and say, hey, this guy is, he knows what he's doing. I didn't have no complication, right? It was so easy for him. All right. So someone who has that tacit knowledge, someone who understands that, this can work. This is how you do it. And the reason why this topic is important is so that you, as a knowledge manager, when you get hired for that job that is going to be paying you a lot of money, your duty is to identify knowledge assets within the organization and go after them and document. This is then how you make yourself productive, valuable in the organization. All the knowledge assets. People that are about to retire. When as a knowledge manager going forward, as a knowledge practitioner going forward, as soon as you hear, someone tells you, I'm about to retire in 2 years, I'm about to retire in a year. There should be something in your ear that says, ging, 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 ging. Now go after that individual and ask the person, do you have any mentee? Do you have any person that you mentor? And then start gathering information from him. Start learning organizational knowledge, institutional knowledge. That person that is about to retire has wealth of knowledge. That you can capture. You can document it. You can begin so that by the time they retire and the organization asks you, Mr. A is, just retired. Oh man, we're going to miss him. Well, no, really, because I was able to document everything that he knows in the organization, because I kind of preempted, a few years ago that he was going to retire. He told me he was going to retire, and I kind of understood he was going to retire soon. And, you as a knowledge manager, you are, sourcing for information. Those information is for you to use it to do, to solve problems. All right. So you should be able to do that. Now, how do companies measure effectiveness? So not only that you are capturing all this information, you are identifying organizational knowledge. How do companies, measure KM effectiveness? So they've not taxed you. You've seen this the project that we talked about. They gave you the privilege to implement that project. How do you know if that project is effective? How do you know? So if you're looking at this slide, please, the 50% I put there, is a bit, I just wanted to balance it. It doesn't really mean anything. It's just a way to balance it. So don't get bogged down on, everything is 50%. No, I just put it there just to balance it, to say, you know what? Let's say, so otherwise it's going to be 200%. Okay. So if you're measuring it, it's going to be 200%. So I just put it there. That my thinking of putting it there is basically, I want you, when you are, implementing a knowledge management, and you want to make sure that the total figure you get balances, right? So I'm thinking of it this way: say, okay, let there be 50% customer satisfaction, let there be 50% employee morale boosting, let there be better decision making, that equals to 50%, and let there be cost reduction of about 50%. So I'm sharing with you that basically make sure that you are able to balance it. Now let's go to the crux of the matter. how can a company measure effectiveness? You can measure effectiveness by customer satisfaction. You can measure effectiveness of your KM program by the employee morale, boosting their morale. So you can boost their morale. Maybe their morale used to be 25%. And after you implemented your knowledge management program, you now moved it to 50%. So how do you boost an employee morale in the first place? By recognizing them. There's something about an individual has an expertise on something, but they don't feel that they are recognized for what they know. It kind of downs it downs their morale, right? So encouraging them by, you know, um, giving them an award for knowledge management, KM best practices, that they encourage knowledge sharing. So you can talk to the leaders of your organization and say, you know what, let's come up with a KM month. During that KM month, knowledge management month, all you guys will do is basically recognizing people that are exercising knowledge management, KM best practice. All right. So now the other one is customer satisfaction, right? How do you encourage, or how do you measure KM effectiveness? Is through customer satisfaction. So each and all, I keep going back to those in IT because that's, something that is close to me because that is, basically what I'm involved with, all kinds of IT people, right? Every time you solve a customer service issue, always send a survey to them. There's someone that, a business that I was doing, someone I was doing business with. So this guy, each time I call him, if he doesn't pick, this is what he has on his voice note. Listen, he will say, "Hey, I'm Mr. A. I'm sorry I missed your call, but just leave me a short message. I'm going to return your call. But if during my interaction with you, you feel I did not help you or I did not solve your problem, and please reach out to my supervisor as well. If you feel I did not, fully address your issue, please by all means reach out to my supervisor, and he will list his supervisor's name and phone number." How creative is that? And how wonderful is that for you to gain customer satisfaction, right? You can always send a survey to people that you are dealing with. So and that's what we do in our own KM program. We always send survey, and you know don't take criticism the wrong way. If after this training, I would welcome you guys, feedback so that I can improve. Next time when I'm doing this class, I can improve. If there's anything that I need to change, let me know. I will change it because the only way I can improve is when you give me feedback. And when you give me constructive feedback, it helps me. So it makes sure that next time when I'm delivering the class, I can, make sure I adjust from all those things. For instance, I remember last week I was we were about to go on break, and instead of me cutting off the break, and when we were supposed to go on break, I kind of started diving into more discussion and all that. And one of the students said, "Hey, if we want to go on break, let's just end, and then move forward." So that kind of thing, was beneficial to me. So when it's time for break now, I can stop and we go on break, unless I don't remember that it's time for break, right? That's the only time I can keep going. But when it's time for break, always solicit for feedback. Feedback is important. And then the next one is about cost reduction. So you're doing something and it used to cost this amount of money, and you did this with this little resources, and you're able to Yeah, you can measure that. These are measurable things. These are all the things you can measure. These are the things. So you can take this. You can take this information from this slide and implement in your own KM organization. And the last one is about decision making, better decision making. So has the KM helped you make better decision? Are you able to measure that? How do you measure better decision? From what you used to do before to now, now I'm able to make better decision. It's a little different. How we make decision. We're able to capture this data. We're able to use data before we make decision in the vacuum. But because of the KM, when the KM was implemented, we're able now to use KM. With the facts and figures that we have, we're able to use it to make better decision for the betterment of the organization. So these are the stuff that you as an individual, should, talk about, put in place. So whatever KM project that you're doing, always focus on trying to measure it. How do we measure for success? How do we measure the effectiveness? Because you don't want to implement a program, and at the end of it, you're not able to say, okay, when we started, it used to be like this, but ever since we implemented this is the benefit that people are getting. This is the efficiency that we've been able to achieve. This is how we've been able to succeed with implementing this. This is this problem we've been able to solve. You as an individual or a KM practitioner should be able to do that, should be able to identify how you can measure those effectiveness, because it goes back to the decision makers within the organization. It goes back to tying it to the strategy. That's what gets attention of the leaders. That's what they want to see. Okay, how are we succeeding? What are we doing? How are we able to make to make better decision with this tool that you've implemented? How are we able to reduce cost? How are customers satisfied? What about employee morale? All those things count. So you should be able to find a way to measure. But all these four things, there are a lot of them, but I think these four kind of captures the heart of what we're trying to do. All right. Now, these are findings from KM industry survey. So there are surveys that were done by a Price Waterhouse Cooper in 1998. There was one that was done in 1995. Number one, it says that there are competitive advantage from KM. And how did they find this? They found it through people that were buying things. People, customers, through customers buying pattern. They were able to say, okay, so you can actually have competitive advantage. How is that possible? So through relationship with customers and trading partners, understanding best practices and also research in ideas. Now, this is a typical example. Let's say someone calls you, a customer calls you and say, "Hey, I'm not able to find a particular product from your website. I'm not able to find it. I've been looking for it, and the person hangs up and you say, okay, what's the product? And the person names the product. Say, oh no, we sell that product. I'm surprised that you're not able to find it. Now, number one, are you as a KM person you have to note those things, right? It's okay. And then another person calls. Let's say there's a lot of people that are calling for a particular thing that they are not able to find a particular. As a KM practitioner and as a problem solver, you should be thinking, okay, now, number one, you're looking at their buying pattern. Number one, because they are calling for that particular thing, you should know that that particular product is becoming popular. What do you do? Now you have to highlight that product by coming up with a way to showcase it more And then you can tell whoever supplies you to supply more of those products. But you now will now use redesign how your website is to now highlight those products more. What that means is that, number one, you're listening to your customers. Okay, so that is, you're thinking as a KM person. You're thinking as a KM person to solve problem. Now, because someone calls that they are not able to find a particular product, your duty is to listen to them and then highlight, or if you're not the one that manages the website, find the people that manage the website and say, hey, there's a lot of calls for this particular product. We need to highlight it. And in fact, not only that we need to highlight it, we need to supply, we need to make sure we have a lot of inventory for this particular product, because now you've been able to know that, okay, these are the buying patterns. There's a lot of people looking for this particular product and we need to stock up on it. Now, you see how, KM gives you a competitive advantage? Now, if they come back to the website and they see that product and they are able to find that product, guess what? They will believe that, yes, this company is listening to us. You as a business person or as a business owner, you work for your customers. Yeah, you might be, oh, I'm a business owner. You want to meet the need of your customer. If you're not meeting their needs, then why are you in the business? So you want to listen to them. And as a KM person, having a KM mindset, you're always looking for a better way to make sure that, you manage your customers' expectation, and also you highlight their need. So the second bullet point talks about intellectual assets account for a greater portion of the value of a company. So they are talking about 98%. So these are like figures that people, highlighted when they did this research, that, intellectual assets account for a greater portion of the value of a company. I think we talked about this in a previous slide, that intellectual asset means something. Those people that that have institutional knowledge. So institutional knowledge meaning that they are experienced. Institutional knowledge is all about experience. The wealth of experience that they've done, that they can be sleeping and you call them to do their job. They're like, all you need to do is turn off your computer and turn it back on. That problem will solve. That person is an expert. You think he's an expert. Yeah, because, they ask you to turn it off and turn it back on. Can you imagine? They were able to fix the problem by just shutting down the computer. You didn't know that. You didn't know that. Why? Because that is not your area of expertise. But you could have turned it off and turned it back on, and that thing will work. So why did that individual, that was sleeping and you woke them up and they were able to solve? Because that's part of them. They know that when you mention this, this is what you need to do, right? So 85% of GDP is in services, where most knowledge output or knowledge, knowledge output is knowledge based, right? This is where all service industry, service industry is about serving people, is about helping people, is about solving problem, product and services. For instance, the US marketplace is all about service. It's a service industry, right? It's about buying things, supplying to, calling Amazon, making your purchase. In order for Amazon to be the way Amazon is today, for Amazon to fail, there has to be it has to be a big deal for Amazon. It's going to be very difficult. Why? Because believe it or not, Amazon is going into healthcare now. You can buy your medicine on Amazon. They can even supply it the next day to your home. Why? It never used to be like that. Why? Because they are listening to people. They are looking at, and we talked about AI earlier. They are looking about the search history. Do you realize that sometimes, you talk about something, on your, you're discussing with someone, You know, I remember one day I was discussing with my wife about something. All of a sudden, I saw that particular thing on TV. I saw that particular thing on TV. I'm like, oh, I was just talking about this now. We are in a world of AI. We are in a world of AI. There's a lot of people that want to gain competitive advantage. They want to put something to your face that, hey, you need to buy this from me. I talked about Amazon. They sell all kinds of things. And this is a company that started by selling books. But because they were listening to customers' need, they were researching what customers want, on a daily basis, they were able to cater for people. If you look for something, you know, Amazon is like Walmart. There's every neighborhood has a Walmart. Right? If you find something, if you can't find it at Walmart, in your neighborhood, maybe there's the likelihood that you might not find it elsewhere. And whatever you cannot find on Amazon there's possibility that you might not find it elsewhere. Why? It's all about competitive advantage. It's all about utilizing their knowledge base. They use their knowledge base to make sure that the information that is on their knowledge base or in their knowledge base, they are able to use it to make decisions to better serve their customers. Now, how KM contributes to employee performance. So, knowledge management, any question at all? Any question, please? As we are, I know this is like a lecture. As we are, pouring out this information, if you have any question, please, by all means, go ahead and ask me. All right. So we are going to be taking a break in a short while. So, so just, maybe in about 20 minutes or so, we're going to take a break. But how can KM contribute to employee performance? So I highlighted things here. Number one, it manages, attention in the face of, remember when I talked about the info glutes earlier, you know, remember I talked about, where there is a dumping ground for all kinds of information that overwhelms someone. So how will KM contribute to your performance as an employee, in the face of information dumping ground, being able to manage, you know, your attention, capture your attention. Knowledge management will be able to filter those information. Knowledge management will be able to streamline those information. You know, it will change the way information is, put in a place unstructured in such a way that it will not structure it so that the information that you have on the website, on the SharePoint page, is the information you actually need. Is the information that you actually need to use to make decision, right? Because believe it or not, information access is fundamentally what knowledge management is all about, right? To be able to find information, to be able to capture information, to be able to, and when you need it. So when you're looking for that information, being able to find it, that's all enhancing knowledge management is all about. It will help you as an employee to learn. It will help you to work better. It will help you to also make decisions. Now, the second one is, search and retrieval. I think I talked a little bit of this, and the focus should never be on technology, but technology will help you to drive this, right? Technology like search, if you have a robust search, implementing a tool that you can use to be able to search information when you need it, it prompts you quickly and you're able to capture what you need, right? And then the third one is about, for you as an employee, it will help you reduce the amount of time it takes you to search for something. Knowledge management will help you because guess what? All information is now stratified, is now structured. You're able to capture you. In fact, when they go to your share drive, you have your information. There's a file map It's well stratified, it's well structured, right? And the next one is going to help you improve the quality of the decisions you make, right? It's not just because when you have the right information, you have the credible information, you have the updated information. You are able to make decision. Why? Because you're working with current information. You're working with facts that is current, right? You're working with something you know that okay, this was if this information was put in last night. So I mean, this is the latest and greatest. So I can use it to make decision. So, and the last one talks about it becomes a repository of corporate memories, of corporate knowledge, or corporate database. A level. Welcome back. Do you all see my the slide? Do you see the slide? All right, it's exactly 12 noon. Let's get this started. So our next question is, how can KM contribute to enterprise performance? How can KM contribute to enterprise performance? Now, it's important to understand that KM transforms an enterprise from just being like a personal thing, like an individualized thing, into making an organization a unified body of learning, making an organization a learning organization. So it's not like, trying to figure out something as an individual. Individuals, learning on their own. But it changes it to a culture where the entire organization becomes an organization of learning, an organization of getting information that is actionable knowledge that is used for decision making. So that means when that happens, it makes the organization more effective. It makes the organization more innovative. It makes them become resilient when it comes to what the organization know as a whole. All right. And also, it makes them very competitive with every other organization. So it showcases how knowledge management will help the organization showcase how profitable they are, how healthy they are in terms of how they address intellectual assets, both the intellectual assets of the individuals within the organization and also the overall intellectual property, right? So it showcases how they are positioned in the marketplace. To know that, if you top of my mind, I can tell you some organizations that are knowledge management organization or knowledge organization. I can call, I can say Amazon, for instance. I can say IBM, for instance. There are organizations that are known as knowledge organization or knowledge management organization. That is because of the way they have utilized knowledge management programs or knowledge management process or knowledge management tools to become very efficient and effective. So that means that knowledge management now moves from just becoming a support tool to a strategic asset for the organization. So that is what knowledge management does for an organization. It makes the organization, it changes the knowledge management practice to become from just being a tool to a strategic asset or a strategic tool within the organization. And these are the stuff that I decided to highlight as some of the contributions. There are a lot of them, but these are the ones that I felt, are critical. Now, number one is it increases expert span of influence. What does that mean? That means that those that are experts within your organizations, they are able to, the stuff that they know, that have institutionalized knowledge or institutional knowledge, they are able to use it to become more effective, right? Now you're highlighting them. You know them as subject matter experts. You know this person, they become something that the go-to person for certain things. You're able to identify those people, and it kind of boosts their morale as employees or as part of the workforce. Now, this next one is it compresses the time lost and work delays. Knowledge management helps you compress, reduce time wasted in doing the things that you do. For instance, if I want to search something, I don't have to search a document. I don't have to keep digging into the knowledge base or into the shared drive, because we have a knowledge management program that gives us for instance, a tool. I can just do a simple search, and that simple search brings up those information. The next one is about lowering cost, through operational efficiencies, and also it reduces the amount of rework that you have to do. Why? Because you've already have a lesson learned. As a KM practitioner, you're going to learn about, action after action review. You're going to learn about lesson learned. Lesson learned is always important. When you do a project, it's always to go back into the mistakes or into what you could have done better in doing that project, so that on the next project you will use the lesson learned to now do things better. So that means that when every tool that you're trying to develop, you have to create a space where you capture all the lesson learned, right? I put here it increases revenue for corporate establishment. So through innovation, through faster time to market, and through improved sales. Remember when I gave that customer service example where I said someone calls that they are unable to find something. You as a KM person, you're able to help your organization implement a better way for them to search or a better way for them to find things, right? What does that do? It increases the sales, because now you're able to know that, hey, from I think there's a lot of traffic that comes into, ask for a particular product. So you are able to capture that, and you're able to find a way to make things a lot easier for your customers. All right. So relating organizational learning to an enterprise strategy. So it's just beyond just the skill development, for individuals. It goes beyond that. Now, how can KM contribute to your strategic performance as an organization? How can KM contribute to strategic? So organizations with superior KM strategy, right? The organization that has a solid KM strategy, have advantage with their competitors. So it will be very difficult for that organization, for people to kind of do the same thing they do, because organization, for your competitors that are not KM driven, right? Even if they try to copy you, it will be very difficult to replicate what you're doing. Why? Because your own method, you're applying KM practices, your best practices in doing your own thing. So it's not going to be the same. Even when they see you, and they want to copy you, they will not be able to replicate it, because your own is coming from the standpoint of using, your strategic KM advantage. You're using your own strategic KM advantage. There's no way, they can replicate exactly what you're doing. For instance, everybody knows about Pepsi Cola and Coca-Cola. There's no way a Coke is going to taste the same as Pepsi Cola. There's no way. For those who drink soda, there's no way. Why? Because there's a secret ingredient in the Coca-Cola that for years, they've not been able to share with anyone. There's a whole bunch of myth stories about that secret ingredient. There's a whole lot of stories behind it. But the secret is that they are not able to share it. So, which means, those that have the intellectual property, they are safeguarding it, and it's just not going to be the same. So you might drink Pepsi Cola, but, or any other cola, but it's not going to be the same as Coca-Cola. Why? Because they have their own strategic knowledge advantage. So pay attention to, they have strategic knowledge advantage, and that's what they are using. So that's why their competitors will never be able to replicate what they are doing. So knowledge is not just about managing resources, that we call knowledge. So knowledge is a resource, we know. But it's not just about that. It's about managing organization strategic thinking and the way the organization learn. So it's not about, you're managing the knowledge alone. It's about how do you manage the way the organization thinks strategically and the way they learn. They have institutionalized knowledge management programs, knowledge management practice in their own in their own culture, in the organization culture. So because they did that, they are able to gain strategic advantage with other competitors. And when you integrate this with, life cycle, remember we talked about, life cycle, knowledge management life cycle last time. Okay, you're thinking about things like, you're formulating, you're executing, you're adapting. When you are able to, incorporate this into the KM life cycle, then you become you definitely have a strategic advantage with any other organization. Why? Because you are intentional. The way you learn from your customer, you learn from your employees, the way they do what they do, and the way they capture their knowledge, they share their experience. These things are documented. So KM now becomes like a particular, a strategy within the organization that ensures that you and the organization, you guys are efficient in the way you do what you do, in the way you manage knowledge, in the way you capture knowledge, in the way, because everything you're doing now, when someone is about to quit the job or is about to retire, you've already started, going after them to make sure that you're able to capture things. And what happens? It results to a speedy delivery of product and services. It results to automating your decision-making process. It helps you with a quicker and a more reliable response to your customer needs. When they need something, you are able to address it immediately. You're not, wasting time. You're not thinking as if you're doing favor to your customers. No, you're doing yourself a favor because you want to stay in business. You spot opportunities for threat very soon. Why? Because you have, what I call the strategic knowledge advantage. So you are able to spot the opportunities and threats sooner. Why? Because the way you're looking at things is not the way your competitors are looking at things. The way you look at, their outlook, of a business strategy is quite different. So you're also innovating continuously. You're creating new ways, new values, and you're aligning everything with the overall strategic vision of the organization. So, what are the barriers to KM? So, with everything that has advantage, with everything that has, a benefit, there's also challenges. And we talked about it, some of the challenges last week. Number one challenge is, inability to communicate, you know, lack of users uptake due to insufficient communication. There's always a communication breakdown. Why? You as a KM person should be able to, you have to be transparent, in the way you communicate. You have to, be effective with it as well. You should be able to, everything that you're doing when you are executing a project, all the stakeholders, you have to, number one, carry them along. Every aspect, every phases of the project, you have to carry them along. Whatever you're doing, even what you're preempting to do, whatever your decision-making process, you have to make sure that everyone is carried along. So let me give you an example. I was trying to deploy a tool for my organization, and we've gotten to a point where we wanted to do a UAT, user activity, user acceptance testing for that particular tool. So, and I thought, oh, everyone knows that, we are trying to do this. But guess what? I got a call one day, and some part of some division said, oh, we weren't aware that you're doing this. And then, we are not even aware that you are calling for some people, within our division or within our oversight to be part of your testing. That is not right. But I thought, okay, everyone knows what was going on. But some people felt that I'm not carrying them along. Guess what? Because of that thing, I had to stop the user activity testing and now go back to brief these people on where we started, what we've done to get to that point for the user activity testing. Guess what? This thing took us, about 2 weeks into the process, because we had to get everybody to be on the same room at the same time, make sure we get it on everybody's calendar. So now everybody, in order to get them, that one took a week. In order to do the presentation, make sure that all the questions are answered, collect information from the users, that we're going to test it. It took another week, to do this user activity testing. Now, guess what? Before, we knew what was going on, the vendors that were supposed to help us do these activities were gone. So we lost 2 weeks, because we didn't communicate effectively with these people. And from there, the vendors, we have a brand new vendors now that are going to help us with this initiative. But guess what? If we had carried all these people along, number one, that period that was wasted relating with these people, getting their buy-in, making sure that they understand where we started and where we wouldn't have wasted it. So when the people that are going to use the tool that you're implementing, is important to carry them along. When they feel that, especially the large number of them feel that you are not communicating with them efficiently or effectively or sufficient enough, it's going to be a problem. The reason is because you are developing this product for people. So you want to make sure that those people are part of your decision. Now, the other one is about lack of internalization of a system by the end users. Sometimes users, they create a system for themselves. They have the way that there's a lot of silos and a lot of stovepipes in different ways that people do different things. So people can make things, develop things for themselves. You ask people, oh, this is how I do things. This is how I do my own thing. This is how, they are creating their own silos, their own different systems on how to do these different things. So when you're doing that, you as a KM person, you want to make sure that everything is centralized, that everyone, trust me, when you are looking to solve a problem, when something becomes a problem, there are other people that might be looking for that particular thing that you're trying to solve. There could be other people. So you might think it's, oh, this is one person's problem, or this is one division's problem. There could be other divisions that are going through the same thing. So you want to make sure that you reduce stovepipes or silos in the system, or and centralize the way things are done. You standardize it. Sometimes it could get to a point where there's going to be a policy in place. You have to come up with a policy on how to do a particular thing, right? And that policy will be the driver and say, hey, this is how we do things now. The other one is, failure to use knowledge effectively. You know, there are ways, so I said earlier that, it's not about just, capturing and storing knowledge. It's about making sure that those knowledge are actionable, that you're using it, and you're actually using it to make decision. It's not just, you capture the knowledge for capturing sake, or you store the knowledge for storing sake. Oh, it's there. We have all those things. And what are you able to use it to do? You know, are those, knowledge that you're storing actionable? And the other one is the difficulties that we've talked about for a long time, since we started this training, right? The ability to capture tacit knowledge. We all know what tacit knowledge is all about. That knowledge that is you gather through your experience. You gather it through your experience. Is very difficult to transfer. It's very difficult to transfer to another person, because it's your own way of doing doing things. You gain this through experience. So sometimes it's hard to transfer it to somebody else, because it's like your second nature. But there's always possibility. It's difficult to transfer, but that does not mean you cannot transfer it, right? So how do you do it? You start with knowledge audit. You start on time, because someone that is about to retire from your organization, you know, might just give you the highest they can give you to sit down with you for 1 hour. And 1 hour is not enough for you to capture the entire thing that they've been learning. But if you have things in place, if you've put things in place prior to this time, it's going to make it a lot easier for you, because now you, every 6 months or every year, or every 3 months, you do knowledge audit. You meet people, and also you can send people different people within your organization. You can tell them, hey, please, you people should update the SOPs. Please, you have time. Maybe you can come up with a knowledge management month or knowledge month, where all through that month, you guys are sharing, best practices on knowledge management. You are awarding people, for effectively managing things. So that might be a very good time for you to now say, hey, for those that are retiring, do a bunch of knowledge interview with them, to capture what they know. what they've gathered over the years with their institutional knowledge. So the other question we want to answer is, does KM equals information management? Does KM equals information management? From what we have learned today, and you can type on the chat, please. Someone type in there if you have the ability to type. Does KM equal information management? Anyone? Any takers? Any takers? Okay, I see. Remember, guys, we learned about the difference between data. We learned about information, and also we learned about, yes, not completely, information or knowledge. So I'm talking about, does KM, look at what is on the board. Does KM equal information management? Okay, say no. Say no. Some people say no, not completely. So information management is about what? How data is collected, used, and stored. But knowledge management is more about who? People. Remember, I talked about earlier, I said, please don't let technology drive your, don't let your technology become the focus of your of solving KM problem. Technology is part of it, but it should not be the focus. You should not throw everything with a tool. Don't throw tool at everything, right? So it says here, information management is about how data is collected, used, and stored, right? But knowledge management is more about people and how knowledge and maybe even wisdom is taken in advantage, how you can use that. So it's talking about actionable knowledge, making sure that you can use your knowledge to make decisions, right? So, but it centers on human beings. It centers on human being. Knowledge management is all about people. Knowledge management is all about people. That is why when you are a knowledge manager in any organization, you have to make yourself valuable, because you cannot allow AI to take over. You cannot allow tools to stay, because if you put tools to it, they can automate things. For instance, in my agency, in my organization, every time when we get to work, right, you have to type something, you have to show where you are. Are you working, where you're working from? Okay. Are you on the site or are you working from home, right? There's a way you can do that. They capture that. But there's a reminder, a notification on how that is done, right? So every morning when you get to work, there's already a reminder that shows up around 8 o'clock that says, hey, don't forget to tell us where you are working from today. Guess what? That thing, because of that automation, we don't need someone to be reminding us. The system is already doing it already for us. So as a knowledge management person, you want to focus your knowledge on your knowledge management practice. Your KM practice should be centered on people. That means you're changing their mindset to do something differently. You're changing their culture, the organizational culture, to begin to do something differently. You're now changing the process. So because people, it has to be culture, it has to be the process, right? People are the ones that are going to type out the process. They are going to be the ones to say, this is how we do something within this organization. This is how we do it. This is the process flow. This is the process flow. So you are the one that is going to document it. People are the ones that are going to document it. And people are the ones that are going to test if those processes that you documented are even effective, they work, right? So they are not the same thing, all right? They are two different things. One focuses on the people. Knowledge is more about the people. And remember that knowledge is different from information, and information is different from data. We talked about data being the raw fact. But now information is information is contextualized. There's a context for it. Information gives it a meaning, but knowledge makes it more actionable. Please, let's not forget this, because this is important, especially for, if you're doing knowledge management certification exam, it's good for you to be able to distinguish between stuff like this. All right. So knowledge is more about people. So information technology is now a driver for knowledge management. So that is fair to say that information technology is a driver. Information technology can show you, can help you push. Information technology can help you push how knowledge is, how decision. Information technology will help you drive how, showcase the type of capabilities that you have within your organization. So information technology is like the proof of what you're doing, because people always want a proof. And especially the stakeholders, they want to, okay, now you can show them that, okay, for instance, let me give you an example. We have a place where we capture where we are, right, as an organization. But there's a place where there's a link where we go and impute those information. Technology is what helped us do those things. Remember, the initial one was there's a policy that we need to identify where we are. When you go to work, you have to identify where you are, where you're working from. All right. But that is going to help. What happens with those information is going to help the organization to identify, okay, at so day, we have people at the headquarters, right? We have this amount of people at the headquarters. So maybe we need to build a bigger headquarters, or maybe we need to reduce our presence in the headquarters, right? Because the information that they are capturing is able to help them to make decisions, right? So when you're talking about information, you're talking about, how is this data able, how are you able to collect this data? How are you able to use this data? How are you able to store this data? Where are you storing this data? When you're talking about knowledge, you're looking at, okay, who are those people that will capture the data? Who are those people that will use the data that is stored? Who are those people that will store the data? So you see, we are talking about two different things. And then how are you able to use it to make decision? What type of decision are you able to use it to make? All right. So let me stop here and solicit for questions. So knowledge is about learning. You're learning. Knowledge is about learning, understanding those things, right? Using those things to be able to do something with it. It's not about just, having those knowledge that you may have gotten through experience, but how are you able to use those things to make decision? Yes, Janelle.
Question for you, relating to, like, specifically relating to your place of work. in your experience. Do you feel like you're competing with AI in within your place of work? Like, do you feel like your higher ups or your managers are like feel that like your position could easily be replaced through AI?
A very good question. That is a very good question. The answer is no. No, because you're using AI to your advantage, right? But you're not using AI to replace you because, believe it or not, you still have oversight on the type of prompt. For instance, I'll give you a typical example. So there's a system. When you have a system in place, right? You're using that system to look. Yeah, Toby, I will answer your question. Yeah, I see your hands. You're using AI to your advantage, but not necessarily using AI to get rid of what you are supposed to do yourself, because you still need an oversight. For instance, the prompts, your own duty is to give AI a prompt to give you information. So you're integrating AI in the system, but you still need a human eye. AI is not 100% accurate. So AI is not even accurate. AI is the information that you gave it. Yeah, there's going to come a time where AI is more efficient and is more advanced. But for now, AI, I don't feel threatened with my job because um, I'm using AI, to it's like you're using it, you have to use AI to augment what you are doing for effectiveness or for efficiency. So there's no way AI, because you still need to make sure that what AI put up is accurate. There's a tons of things that AI says that is incorrect. In fact, I can tell you as a professor, we use AI to identify if someone is. Can you imagine how this is? You're using AI to catch if someone is using AI, right? You see how that is an oxymoron, right?
Yeah,
We use AI to catch if students are cheating in the exam or are cheating in their paper. So this is so I'm using as an academic, as a faculty member within the university. I cannot totally take what the AI, if I run the student's paper through the AI, and it says, oh, 95%, or let me take, I have my cutoff point. So I don't pay attention when I run your paper as a professor. If I run your paper through the AI and it tells me 20% AI generated information, I'm not going to ping you. But I usually ping students. I usually reach out to students if I see that they have 30% of AI generated information. I can just say, hey, but before I do that, even if it's 30% or 35%, I might not even reach out to you as a student. I will first of all go through your paper and see what is AI highlighting that is AI generated. Sometimes it's just your name. You might have a common name with another person. Yeah, I'm not gonna ding you on that. I'm not gonna ping you. I'm not gonna penalize you because you have a common name. And there might be a common topic. So pay attention to what I'm saying. There might be a common topic, there might be a common thing, but that is where human eyes come in. Because AI is wrong to rate you 40% or 35%. The AI is wrong. So AI cannot get it correctly. But this is where human oversight takes place. So as a professor, I look at, oh, AI is highlighting a bunch of topic, or you did not cite some things. I'm like, okay, I'm not going to bother this student. I'm going to pass you because half of what AI identify as AI generated is wrong, because AI is just generating common things, right? So you are, even if you are integrating AI in your system, you still in your information technology, you still need human beings. So, but this is where you as a KM practitioner comes, where your skill comes in. You want to make sure that you're using AI to augment, the efficiency, but you're not eliminating your role, because you still need in place to put, and that's where strategy comes in. You still need to put in place a mechanism where there is a human oversight. So you have to build it into the system where, regardless of how this tool is developed, at the end of implementing this tool, we still need you. So you now will have to integrate yourself into the system. I say you still need human. It can be in the policy. You still need human to be the oversight of this all. So we are not taking the overall of what AI is saying totally. And also, you also have to put there, this is AI generated report. So human being, and you can say for every AI generated report, there has to be a human oversight, a human person that will take a look at it to make sure that it's accurate. So for that, so if there's no human being to do the oversight, then there's a problem with the report, because you can't take everything that the AI said to be accurate, because AI is wrong many percent of the time. Does that answer your question? So I don't feel my job is threatened,
Yes, yes, thank you.
because you have to think strategically. And also you have to also think, oh, how do I protect my job? Because this is important. You have to, whatever tool that you're developing, there has to be strategy. So you have to put yourself in the place where, no matter what happens, there is an oversight. There is a human oversight for whatever tool, whatever thing, just to make sure that everything works correctly. Toby.
So I actually just wanted to jump in and piggyback off what you said. When I'm in school and I have keynote speakers that come in, they're usually from Boeing, they're from consulting companies like Deloitte, and they talk about AI and they say how a lot of companies started to jump on the AI train, but then realized it wasn't profitable. Like they did fire some people and thought, oh, maybe AI could replace it, those mandatory roles, but they realized that there's a lot of without using any technical terms, there was a lot of be like they call it a specific word, but basically they're getting information's wrong, or
Mhm,
their processing is redundant information,
mhm,
and it's not reliable. So like I
mhm,
wanted to say that to like maybe if anyone anyone that's have anxiety with AI, because there's a lot of propaganda out there like AI is going to
mhm,
replace this, like oh my god, just put a few code in and they're going to replace all these. What's really missing in the field right now is skill and knowledge. Like a lot of people are lacking skill and the ability to communicate that skill, which is what I
yes,
feel like this knowledge management will be able to help us with. They do
mhm,
push. We have to like we have to understand it to the point where we can communicate this, and
yes,
we're not going to be replaced by AI when it comes to this, because AI only repeats information that you give it, and if you give it wrong information, it's just going to repeat that, and it takes some
mhm,
type of skill to be able to process all the information together. Like you have to have human thinking basically to be
mhm.
a way to process all this. That's all I wanted to say.
Thank you, Toby. That is spot on. That is spot on. And you can do your own research. And you can do, at the end of this training today, you can just go and type in, ask AI, ask ChatGPT to give you information for uh, um, 2028. ChatGPT is not able to, it's going to tell you, sorry, I'm not able to give you this information because I don't have it. It's as simple as that, because AI is wrong most of the time. Just like Toby said, it's giving you the prompt that you type in. AI is giving you what you gave it. It's like garbage in, garbage out. What you gave AI can give you information up until, let's say, September of 2025. AI cannot give you information for October, accurate information for October or November. Why? Because it doesn't have it. So, and that's why it's called machine learning. So it's learning what is already there. It hasn't gotten to time where it's going to optimize that, all those information just yet. AI, is not going to replace, for instance, how can AI capture your tacit knowledge? We learned about tacit knowledge, the knowledge that you have. Like, I can piggyback on what Toby just said just now. There are, imagine organization firing those that have institutional knowledge. They have tacit knowledge. You fire them. AI is not able to replicate those things. AI is not able to capture those things because those things are gone. There's always going to be a human touch for everything that we do. In fact, a typical example, a robot is a human being, that is going to operate a robot. A human being is going to tell it, is going to turn it off, or even a robot cannot charge itself. Let's say you say, oh, I have this robot that is going to do all kinds of. No, it's a human being that is sometimes a robot. In fact, I saw something on social media where they put up a robot to do, like, to be in a packaging or in a processing factory. And after a while, the battery died and the robot crumbled. Yes, AI is relevant. Yes, AI is helping us, do things more efficiently, but there are certain things AI cannot replace because there are certain people AI cannot replace. There are people AI cannot replace. For instance, me as being a professor, imagine if there are students that I've reached out to. I'm like, hey, your paper says it's 100% AI generated. What is going on? Oh, I look back and say, oh no, this is my second time taking this class. Guess what? The individual is sharing the same paper that they shared before, and within the system, the AI is able to capture this person and thinking that the person cheated. No, the person is just sharing the same paper that they submitted to a last professor. So AI is not accurate all the time, and AI cannot be accurate all the time because this is relying on the information that people put in there. All right. So, but knowledge management has come to stay. Knowledge management is, and that's when we are talking about strategy. You have to, I'm going to show, share some strategies on how you will, solidify your stay within an organization, because everything you're building, everything you're doing, you have to, assert yourself in it in such a way that you become valuable, you become relevant. People will start looking for you, not you looking for those people, right? Because of the value that you have already created. So, if there's no other question, please take a 15 minutes break and come back at 1 so that we can round up this class. Take a 15-minute break.